Welcome to Ring the Bell. I'm Ellen Terhune, and with me are expert analysts Jared Linz and Nick Springer. Tonight we will be talking about all things football from the NCAA to the NFL. But to start things off, KU basketball defeated Kentucky last night 65-61 in the Champion Classic in Chicago. It was not a pretty game, but the Jayhawks pulled it off. What can we take away from last night's performance?
Give credit to the Jayhawks for pulling out the win. It wasn't pretty. It was really ugly. Not a lot of shots went down, but the Jayhawks got the win nonetheless. But the thing I was looking forward most to seeing going into this game was how well would Devontae Graham handle his role as the guy, the go-to guy without Frank Mason, without Josh Jackson. And Devontae Graham didn't play very well. 3 of 14, 5 turnovers. He tried to force it. He tried to dribble into the paint like Frank Mason used to do, and he wasn't very effective. So not a good game for Devontae Graham, but the Jayhawks nonetheless still pulled it out. I was impressed with their defense and their rebounding, and Udoka Azubuike is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I agree. I think Udoka Azubuike was my biggest takeaway. He had a really great game. Made all 5 of his shots. They were all from like 2 feet away from the basket, though. But he had a really great game. And he played 34 minutes, which is way more than I want to see him play in the future.
Yes.
That was obviously because of the absence of Billy Preston. And then I think to Jared's point about Devontae Graham, right this moment, this team does not have a go-to shooter. There's nobody on the team that's emerged as that guy. That's not to say that can't change over the course of the season, but after this game, there's nobody that I think that they can confidently go to in a late game situation like a Frank Mason like last year. But like I said, that could very well change over the course of the season if somebody's able to step up, because they have guys that are capable of doing that. I think all 4 of the starting guards from last night's game are capable of being that guy, but none of them have turned into him yet. So we'll have to see if they can one can rise above the others.
Yeah, back to your point on Azubuike. In like the final 10 minutes, I was kind of concerned that he might fall over, pass out on the court. 34 minutes, I don't know if he's played that much in his entire career or his life. That should never happen, and hopefully that will not happen again when they get back Billy Preston, when they get back Silvio, or potentially get Silvio De Sousa, the early graduate. But my main point is Devontae Graham, Malik Newman, LeGerald Vitt combined to go 11 of 41 from the field. Udoka Azubuike was 5 of 5. They need to try to get the ball down low. He can score pretty much anytime he wants. They got to get him more involved.
Yeah, I actually think they didn't get him involved enough.
Right, that's my point.
Considering the amount of time he played, 34 minutes.
Yeah, he was out there all game.
So,
Poor guy.
I mean, there was a stretch between like the 7-minute mark and the 3-minute mark where there wasn't a stoppage in the game.
He was struggling.
And Udoka was, like you said, I was with you. I thought he was about to fall over. I mean, they called the timeout, and he just went straight to the bench. So that shows the importance of having Billy Preston and potentially Silvio De Sousa, as you mentioned, because Mitch Lightfoot contributed 6 minutes, and they were 6 not very productive minutes, where KU was just basically treading water until they could get Udoka back in. So from that standpoint, the bigs are obviously very important, Billy Preston and Silvio De Sousa going forward for KU. And potentially Silvio De Sousa at this point. But I think for KU, the goal should be to just try to get to the end of this semester as good as you can be. Until you get back Cunliffe and potentially De Sousa, like we said.
And Preston.
We would hope will be back by then. So I think that's got to be the mentality for KU, is just get to semester, get towards the start of conference play, and then second semester in the spring, I think they'll be much better with more players on the team.
But last thing, KU, 3 straight wins against Kentucky. Anytime you beat Kentucky, that's a good day. Jayhawks grinded out, so a win's a win. Win's a win.
Absolutely.
6 guys. They played essentially with 6 guys and got a win. So.
Right, now going back to freshman Billy Preston, he was suspended due to an ongoing investigation concerning the financial situation of a car that he wrecked on campus a couple days ago. Now, what do we make of this whole situation?
It's not good. He obviously was suspended for the first game for missing class and missing curfew, and then he misses another game, which wasn't necessarily his fault. He just kind of crashed a car, or not crashed. He got in an accident, and I guess it wasn't registered or something. So obviously last year, a lot of distractions off the court, and this year another distraction to start. Kansas has just got to zero things in, calm down, just play basketball, and don't get in trouble off the court. That's what I want to see going forward.
The details of the situation are pretty sketchy, where Billy Preston allegedly wrecked a car. I don't know how you define wrecked. And allegedly the damage was just to his tires, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I guess the financial situation of it suddenly came up, but Bill Self didn't seem too concerned about it. But I mean, that's kind of his job. And so I don't really know what to make of it. Obviously, we want to have the opportunity to get Billy on the floor as soon as possible. I'm sure he wants to as well. But given that situation, you just got to make smarter decisions when you're in that situation. So.
And it's especially not ideal when you only had 8 scholarship players to begin with. Now you have 7. You have no depth down low.
6.5.
Right. So you just got to be smarter. You got to stay out of trouble off the court. Just go play basketball, go to class.
Yeah. Or ask for a ride. I'm sure there's
yes,
plenty of
just
people
tweet
on
out
campus.
and say, please give me a
sure
ride. There'll
plenty
be
of people on campus
hundreds
that
of
would be willing to
students
give 'em a ride.
lining up to
Yep,
give you a ride.
Absolutely.
Unless, is that impermissible benefits? It might be.
I think it is.
Knowing the NCAA,
actually,
it
I
could
think
be.
it is.
It very well could be.
I think it is.
So.
Now, speaking of other sketchy situations surrounding college basketball, the 3 UCLA players who were arrested in China for shoplifting have been released, and they arrived back in the United States last night. Today, UCLA released a statement saying that they would be suspended indefinitely. But what do you think the proper punishment is for this?
First off, we call this big baller burglary, the ball brand being involved. Proper punishment, see, shoplifting is serious, obviously, but it's not as serious as 3 to 10 years in jail like they would have gotten in China. So,
in California, it's 16 months to 2 years for shoplifting.
Well, that's not 3 to 10.
You're right, it's not. That's still a significant amount of time.
You're right. Okay, but anyway, 18-year-old kids, I'm going to give them 10 games. Is that fair?
Well, here's the deal. With the suspended indefinitely, we saw this last season when Grayson Allen was suspended indefinitely for like 4 games.
Yeah, but he tripped a guy. He didn't rob a Louis Vuitton.
No, you're right.
It's a little different.
But my point is that they can say suspended indefinitely, and then whenever the circus kind of blows over, they can bring him back.
Or if they have a big game, like, oh, okay, they're playing. It's time to go.
I mean, I guess they could do that too. But I think that's the strategy with the suspended indefinitely, because that gives UCLA a lot of leeway to determine when they're going to bring him back, what they're going to do with them, instead of kicking them off the team or doing something drastic like that.
And potentially, if they're suspended indefinitely, if they're acting really good, just straight kids, maybe doing community service, maybe they can get lesser than they would have gotten originally.
Yeah, so I think suspended indefinitely is a smart move for UCLA.
Not saying that will happen.
Because it puts them in a situation where they have the opportunity to play the cards as they may and sort of let the situation unfold and then go from there.
Right. Now, it will be interesting to see how that whole situation plays out. We will be back with college football after the break.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family? This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry. Go along, son.
it's always worth it.
Whoa!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. Even though we are one of the most food-rich countries in the world, 15 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. This is unacceptable, and something the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is working to solve. Instead of accepting that our country lets billions of pounds of surplus food go to waste every year, Feeding America has made it their mission to help families in need by rescuing this food. Through food pantries and meal programs, the nationwide network of food banks provides more than 3 billion meals, serving virtually every community in the United States, including yours. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by visiting feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
The college football playoff rankings are out once again. Of course, we've got Alabama at the top, and then Clemson, Miami, and Oklahoma. What are your thoughts on these rankings?
My initial thoughts are, as it goes all the way throughout the year, the rankings are pretty much irrelevant until the final rankings are released, right? Because there's still multiple games to be played. You still have to play all the conference championships. And Clemson has a big game at South Carolina. So, I mean, if I'm Oklahoma, I might be a little bit disappointed, but what really matters is the Final Four, the Final Four rankings.
Yeah, I agree. And these rankings, for the most part, I'm okay with it. I'm pretty surprised Clemson's at 2 because they've not been super impressive, but clearly the committee weighs their 7 top 25 wins very heavily over Miami and Oklahoma. So, and obviously, these rankings also show that the committee is not going to be swayed by dramatic wins in 1 week, because obviously Miami had a dominant victory over Notre Dame that a lot of people thought was going to jump them up, but it really didn't. So, from that standpoint, I think that the committee, again, they can pretty much do whatever they want, and Jared's right, it doesn't really matter that much. But for Wisconsin, it's disappointing because the Badgers, they're undefeated.
Well, you got to play somebody. You can't be playing Cupcake City every week and expect to be in the top 4.
They're playing Michigan this week. They're going to be in the top 4.
Okay. Well, if they
next
win,
week.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
They won't be in the top 4 next week.
I don't think they'll
win.
be in the top 4 next week if they
Who
win.
are they passing?
Which is sad.
Now, Miami made the largest jump in college football history. So, I mean, obviously, that's a pretty big deal.
I just thought they would jump. I just thought they would jump to 2, but they didn't. Obviously, being in the top 4 is still important for them, but I don't know. See, for me, I put a lot of weight on teams being undefeated, even if they haven't played anybody, because it's so difficult for teams to go undefeated. So, for me, Clemson's 1 loss to Syracuse.
UCF's undefeated.
Should put that exactly. UCF, where are they at? Give them credit. So, Clemson's 1 loss to Syracuse, who is not a great team. To me, I think that Miami would be more worthy of being number 2 at that point ahead of Clemson. So that's what
Clemson has 7 top 25 wins.
I know they do.
Now, which of these 4 teams do you guys see not making the Final Four?
I'm going to say Miami. I'm not a big believer in Miami. They're going to have to go play Clemson in the ACC title game. I don't see any way they're going to win that game. So I think Miami's going to be out of the teams in right now.
I think Clemson, because they're going to lose to Miami in the ACC title game. And they're going to be out.
Okay.
So Clemson and Miami, I think, are the 2 obvious candidates to not make the playoff out of these 4 currently, because they have to play each other, obviously. That's why I think Clemson is going to be out, because I think Miami's the real deal, and they've got another big game against Virginia. Even though Virginia is not a top 25 opponent, not that great, Miami's coming off a huge victory, so it's a potential trap game for them. So if they come out and perform well against Virginia, I will have a lot of confidence in them to potentially beat Clemson in the ACC title game. And obviously, if they defeat Clemson and they're undefeated, then they have to be in.
Yes.
So.
Now, moving on to the NFL, the Chiefs are coming off of a bye week, and they need to regain momentum. They're 1-3 in their last 4 games. What are we expecting to see Sunday in New York?
I expect to see a rejuvenized, energetic, just team that's really pissed off. 1-3 in their last 4. They needed that bye week really badly. Their line's been beat up. They finally got all their guys back. They're all healthy now. I expect to see a blowout in New York on Sunday.
Yeah, this is the perfect storm for the Chiefs. Andy Reid is 16-2 coming off a bye week.
Not bad.
And he's playing the hapless Giants, who are terrible. They just got beat pretty badly by San Francisco.
And they're also talking about benching Eli Manning for the future, get some other guys reps. So.
Well, their defense made C.J. Beathard look like Tom Brady out there.
Yeah,
so
they're struggling.
The Giants have a litany of problems, and I think if the Chiefs are not dominant in this game, I will be very, very concerned about them going forward into the playoffs. But I expect them to be dominant for the reasons that Jared listed, and for the fact that, as I mentioned, Andy Reid is 16-2 coming off a bye. So for all those combinations, I think creates the perfect opportunity for Kansas City to reassert their dominance and to show that they are one of the top teams in the AFC and can compete for the AFC Championship.
Yeah, the one thing I want to see get going on Sunday is the running game. The first 5 games, Kareem Hunt was a superstar. He went for over 100, I think, 4 of the 5 games, so he was a stud. And then the last couple of weeks, they've had a really hard time running the football. Their line's healthy now. I think this is the week where they get the running game going back.
Yeah,
because Alex Smith can't carry the day. Every week.
Only averaging 67.3 rushing yards per game over the last 4 games. That's not going to cut it.
No, and neither is 22 points.
Unless your quarterback,
especially when your defense.
Unless your quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, having 63 yards rushing per game is not going to get it done.
Right.
And Alex Smith is very dependent on the running game in order for him to be successful. So for that reason, it's very imperative that the running game for Kansas City gets going, and I think it will be with the offensive line getting back together and becoming more healthy with Mitch Morse and LDT.
Yep.
So I think, again, this is a great opportunity for Kansas City to build some momentum coming off a bye and assert themselves as one of the top teams in the AFC.
Right. Now, we will be back after our fantasy football segment with a lightning round.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. getting that college education. What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills.
The smarts? Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
All right, welcome back to Ring the Bell. My name is Meet Kapadia, and I'm the fantasy nerd of this show. So without any further ado, let's jump right into my last week's top 5 list. At number 5, I have Kirk Cousins. Seems like Kirk Cousins is the only consistent fantasy performer when it comes to the Redskins. And once again, he showed last week as he put up 27.6 fantasy points. At number 4, I have DeMarco Murray. I remember when DeMarco Murray was actually good, and we kind of expected DeMarco to put up these type of numbers. But DeMarco is getting a little washed up now, and so at least this week, he put up 25.2 points, fantasy points that is. At number 3, I have Robert Woods. And you might be wondering, who in the world is Robert Woods? I've never heard of him. Well, Robert Woods is a wide receiver for the Rams, and he actually went off. As you can see in this clip here, that was about a 90-yard touchdown right there. And that's just the norm for Robert Woods. As last week, he also had 20 plus fantasy points. This week, he put up 29.1 fantasy points and had 2 touchdowns. At number 2, we have Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram has to share his touches with Alvin Kamara, but he took advantage of his 21 touches that he got in last week and got 3 touchdowns out of it. As you can see, all 3 of those in these clips that we're showing. He ended up putting up 31.1 fantasy points. And in this play, once again, just bullying his way through the Bills defense. That's just what Mark Ingram does on a daily basis. At number 1, I have Superman Camp. Cam Newton is putting up MVP performances once again as he put up 35.7 fantasy points this week. Cam Newton absolutely dissected the defense last week as he threw for 4 touchdowns and ended up rushing for 95 yards as well. The Panthers looked like they were a playoff contender last week as they decimated the Miami Dolphins. Not only that, you can see right here Cam Newton still showing his legs and going for huge gains. Cam Newton ended up throwing for only 254 yards, but once again had 4 touchdowns. Now that we got the top 5 out of the way, let's move on to next week. We need week 11, and some people that I like and some people that I hate. I'm a bit shaky on DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins last week ended up getting, I believe, 114 yards, and Tom Savage threw 422 yards. That's half of the yardage coming to DeAndre Hopkins. But I believe that's not going to be the case next week, as DeAndre Hopkins is without Deshaun Watson, who I believe was having an MVP season. So not only that, Hopkins is facing an Arizona Cardinals defense that has Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu. So he's going to have trouble getting open, especially with Tom Savage at the quarterback spot. And now that we got the hate part of the way, let's move on to someone I like, which is Sterling Shepard. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. And in 2 weeks that he's been back, he's been dominating. Clearly, he's the number 1 option on the Giants' offense at the moment, as everybody else is essentially injured on their team. So in 2 weeks ago, he had 9 catches and 70 yards. And last week, he had 11 catches and 142 yards. So we can see that the Giants are relying heavily on Shepard to produce. And that's going to be the same thing for them next week, as Shepard will continue to get touches. Not only that, Shepard is facing the Chiefs defense, who has not been performing well lately. They haven't had a great performance since week 5, which was against Houston. And the only outlier has been that Broncos game. And the stats show this as well. Chiefs are considered to be the 27th worst passing defense in the league. They allow 270.4 yards per game. That is 13.8 yards per pass. So Shepard might have a field day against the Chiefs defense. All right, let's move on to my next week's sleeper. The first sleeper I have is Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is the third string running back for the Green Bay Packers. He's owned by 2.7% of the league. The reason I have him on my sleepers list is the fact that Ty Montgomery and Aaron Jones are both out. And with Brett Hundley at the quarterback spot, the Packers will have to rely on the run game. And Jamal Williams will provide that for them. Not only that, the Packers are facing Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are an elite pass defense. But when it comes to their rush defense, they're a bit shaky, as they're the 27th worst rushing defense in the league, as they allow 125.8 yards per game and 4.2 yards per rush. So we can see that Jamal Williams has a potential to have a decent game and produce decent fantasy output. At number 2, I have Robert Woods. He was in my top 5 at number 3 this week, and he's ranked currently 8th among wide receivers. He averages about 9.5 points per game and is currently only owned by 61.4% of the fantasy leagues. But the thing is, he's going really fast because he has had 2 really good games. And with Jared Goff having an amazing season, Robert Woods' output in fantasy looks better and better. However, one thing about Woods is that he is facing a tough Minnesota defense, but we have seen Goff play against decent defenses in the past, and he's done fine. So I believe Goff has the potential to not only produce next week, but continue to produce throughout the entire NFL season. So with that in mind, that's all I have for you guys today in my fantasy show. So I'm going to give it back to the Ellen and guys. Take it away.
Welcome back to Ring the Bell. Tonight's final segment for the show will be a lightning round in which the guys will pick a winner for each of the following tournaments: Maui Gym Invitational, Marquette, VCU, WSU, Cal, Notre Dame, Chaminade, LSU, or Michigan.
Wichita State's going to win. They have one of the, sorry, Springer. They have one of the deepest teams in the country right now. Landry Shaman's a pro. Marcus McDuffie, not playing now. He's going to be a pro. Bunch of depth down low. They're going to win. This field's not very strong.
Yeah, this thing's rigged. But also, Notre Dame, I think, could actually potentially win it.
Yeah, Notre Dame's top 15 ranked.
Yeah, they're good. Notre Dame is a good team, and I think they have a solid chance of winning it. A solid chance is Wichita State, I think, to knock off the Shockers. So,
nice.
All right, now we'll start with you for the next one, the Battle of Atlantis. We have Villanova, Tennessee, Arizona, SMU, Purdue, Western Kentucky, North Carolina State, and Northern Iowa.
I'm going to pick Arizona. Alonzo Trier, I think, is one of the top 5 players in the country, and DeAndre Ayton has been going off early in the season. He's been one of the top talks of freshmen, so I think the Wildcats are going to probably easily win this one. I think they're definitely one of the top 5 teams in the country right now.
This is rigged, I agree. But I'll take Villanova. Jay Wright's bunch is always experienced. They might not have those one-and-done guys, but they always have a veteran backcourt, veteran guys. They're gonna beat Arizona early on in the season.
Now for the Phil Knight Invitational in the victory bracket, we have Portland, North Carolina, Arkansas, OU, UConn, Oregon, Michigan State, and DePaul. Who do you have?
I have Michigan State, Miles Bridges, Jaren Jackson, the guy, the freshman, 6'11".
Can shoot, apparently.
He was really impressive on Tuesday night against Duke. I think Michigan State's going to win it.
I'll take Oklahoma out of that list. I don't know. I just feel like they're going to have a chance to go off. I'm picking the Sooners. I think Trae Young's going to tear it up. He was player of the week. Hey, player of the week this last week. So
yeah, you're right.
They're going to go off.
Now in the motion bracket, we have Portland State, Duke, Butler, Texas, Florida, Stanford, Ohio State, and Gonzaga.
Springer, you get to go first.
Oh, I get to go first?
Yeah.
I'll take Texas in this one. I like the Longhorns here. I think Mohamed Bamba is going to be a good player for Texas, and I think Shaka Smart's a much better coach than what the team played last year, and I think this is an opportunity for them to get some good momentum early in the season.
Okay, I'm going to assume you didn't know Duke was in this bracket.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Okay.
I'll let you have Duke.
Duke is going to win. They're the number 1 team in the country. Grayson Allen, 37 points on Tuesday night. They're really impressive.
I'll let you have that one. Okay. I was stepping aside for you to take Duke.
Thank you.
Well, that is it for tonight's episode of Ring the Bell. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Eat some turkey.
And be sure to tune back in with us after the break.